Hello and welcome to another episode of Emerging Titans on ET Now. I'm Anisha Jain. Well, joining me today is our brother-sister duo who's looking at tapping into the consumption and premiumization story in India, and they're making us look good in the process. Well, it's Adwaita Nayar as well as Anchit Nayar of Nykaa joining me on the show. Hi guys, thanks so much for making time for us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. As is the case in Bollywood movies, let's start with a bit of a flashback. Growing up, you of course had these successful professional parents who were at the top of their game, of course, busy with what they were doing. Growing up, is that what you wanted to do? What really motivated you? Either of you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, we grew up in this lovely family with wonderful parents, and both were really great role models for us in terms of working hard, being very disciplined, focused on work. So yeah, I think from a very young age, we had that role modeling. And I do think that from a young age, we were both very academically focused and also very keen as we got older to have good careers. And I think that was rooted a lot in sort of the rigor that we saw our parents lead their careers with.
Yeah, your take. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
No, I think it's a good question, Anisha, not one we get asked all the time. But I think Adwaita said it, which is we really look up to our parents a lot. And I think they instilled in us a lot of integrity, a lot of belief in work ethic and diligence and accountability and ownership. At a very young age, we saw the way that they worked for their respective companies, which was obviously for my father, Citigroup at the time, and for my mother, it was Kotak Mahindra Bank. So both in financial services, and I think it is such an incredible industry, kind of exposure you get, the kind of opportunities you get, and I think watching them and the way that they focused on their careers early in their life, it was really something which we've learned from them. And of course, as you know, I absolutely did follow in their footsteps, and I spent the first 7 years of my career working in banking in New York with Morgan Stanley. And so yeah, pretty much followed them, followed their career path, and absolutely loved it. It's an incredible industry. Learned a lot, had some incredible leaders and managers. And I'm very grateful for that experience. And I think that a lot of what I am today at Nykaa is in large part because of that training I had working in financial services in the US.
So then what made you guys leave those, so-called cushioned jobs per se? And I'm saying it cushioned because at least it's not as hectic as the role of a founder and managing a business, and come back and join Nykaa?
So, I think I actually joined my mother really early on, back in 2012, and I just graduated from my undergraduate degree at Yale University. And, she was like, I want to start this business. It sounded really exciting for me back then as a 21-year-old. And I just sort of jumped on the opportunity and said, hey, that sounds really interesting, though obviously growing up, entrepreneurship is not something we'd ever dreamt of. Yeah. But just jumped into it, came back, joined her, and loved every minute since. And so I feel I sort of stumbled into entrepreneurship, stumbled into Nykaa, but once I tried it, there was sort of no turning back. I've loved every single minute of it.
And Nykaa itself has been a category creator of sorts. I mean, that's what I joke with my friends. I didn't know I needed it till the time Nykaa came on board. How would you stack up the journey so far, and what's the way forward? Because it does seem like that the category is poised for at least 20-30% CAGR growth over medium term?
Yeah. I think, when we started the company back in 2012, no one thought that India needed a one-stop beauty shop, right? And we had this sort of vision that India needs it, there's no one else doing it. And with that conviction, we went and built this multi-brand platform at a time when there were tons of naysayers.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that we created the category by bringing the right assortment on board, by delivering it in an online manner so every corner of India could have it. And if I may say so, I think we taught a lot of Indian women about beauty and the needs and created the category in that regard. And then, of course, there were some underlying positive trends for us in terms of, online picking up, women's consumption picking up, women's earning power picking up. So all of that worked in our favor. But I do think a large part of our early years was about category creation. And now, as we're looking forward, I think Anchit can come in here. We do believe that there's just so much potential for the beauty market from here, and we're trying to contribute in that regard.
Yeah. No, look, I think Adwaita was very, very, took a big risk in her career by joining Falguni at pretty much day one, and it was, we as a family were not sure if it would work out. It was 2013. She had just left her job at Kotak Bank, and she had a hunger to be an entrepreneur, because I think as a banker, you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. You help them to take their businesses public or raise money in the public markets. And she had tremendous respect, not only for her boss at the time, which was obviously Uday Kotak, but for other entrepreneurs she had worked with. So she was very keen to do it. Adwaita had a similar risk appetite and therefore joined her very early on. For me, on the other hand, I only came back to join Nykaa in 2018, so a full 5 years after it had started.
And why is that? Is
And
my next question.
so I think, you talked about cushy job, and I would actually say that working in investment banking in New York is not a very cushy job, and it is an incredibly intense lifestyle. It is an incredibly intense work culture, but you come out all the better for it. And I really enjoyed getting that experience. I think when you're 21, 22 out of college, it is the best thing for you as a young adult to have that type of exposure, to have that type of experience, and to really work those long hours. I know it's an unpopular subject right now about work-life balance, but I think that's the age when you need to learn and build your skill set. So I was very I was very lucky to have had that experience. But by 2018, I think Nykaa had reached a point where the business was clearly not going to shut shop. It was clearly an established business already. There was a very good product market fit, and the consumer had accepted the brand. The consumer had accepted the platform. However, in 2018, a lot more was coming into onto our plate as Nykaa, and we had done a very good job in beauty, but there were thoughts about building a fashion business. And of course, since Adwaita had built the beauty business, she was the natural person to lead the efforts to build a fashion business from scratch. And so that really left a lot of, there was still a lot more to be done on the beauty side, especially at that time we were focused on building out our physical retail business. And as you know, building physical retail is, again, a very you have to be on the ground, visiting the cities, visiting the stores, and physically it's a demanding job. And that was an opening that was there for me, and I realized that the best way to learn about India, learn about consumption, learn about the consumer, is to do physical retail first. So it was the opportunity to do physical retail at Nykaa that excited me and that brought me back. And of course, I think by 2018, it was undeniable that India was on this massive growth path. And as a student of history, I realized that countries have this once in a century opportunity. And if you look at it, the United Kingdom might have had it in the 1800s with the Industrial Revolution. The US had it around World War I, World War II in the early 1900s. And China, of course, a big beneficiary of that in the early 2000s. And we felt that this was India's decade, and 2000. Late 2000, mid 2000s and 2010s, and after that. So it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. We were lucky. I was personally very lucky that we already had this business that was off the ground, and I could help to accelerate that. And I think that was the biggest motivator, that yes, I could spend a few more years or maybe an entire career working in the US, but I would always regret that I wasn't there to partake and to really help build a business in a growing economy like India.
So that's how you'll categorize each other? She's more of a risk taker because she was there from the start. You waited for it to settle. Probably the foundation was laid and jumped in. Is that the kind of categorization you'd agree with?
I would say Adwaita definitely has a strong appetite for risk. She is willing to take a big bet, and obviously it's paid well for her. I would say that yes, in a way, I'm slightly more analytical, slightly more. Slightly less risk forward. And it's, you look at our parents, they're very similar. My father is also slightly more risk averse. My mother is obviously very a big risk taker. And somewhere, I think, obviously, genetics play a big role. So I land somewhere in the middle. I think Adwaita is probably slightly closer to my mother in that sense.
But I think in general, we have very complementary skill sets. I think I enjoy the 0 to 1 journey, even within Nykaa, building our various businesses. Really, I love that early phase. I think Anchit's really good at sort of, once the business is established, really taking it to the right level and scale and demanding the right rigor from the teams. So I think if I'm 0 to 1, he's sort of 1 to 100, and I think that makes us a good fit.
That's interesting. That's a good way to put it, actually. But, you talked about the India opportunity and how this century belongs to India. What do you think is stopping India right now to, create the next Amazon, Walmarts of the world?
I don't think anything's stopping India. In fact, I think a lot of India's companies particularly led by technology, are world-class in terms of the product that they've built from a technology perspective, and even the services that they're providing. So I would actually say that we're really building leading-edge companies, particularly when it comes to consumer tech.
Yeah, and what role do you think tech is going to play? Because, I mean, at one point of time, it was about, the kind of demand picking up. Then it was whether you want to create a supply-led kind of market or not. Now, technology is going to play a part in it as well. Talk to me about how you see the market really playing out in the next few years and decades from here on.
Yeah, so I think Adwaita said it, which is, we are very lucky to meet with global brand partners whom we work with all around the world. And everybody keeps saying that they're so impressed by the technology backbone and infrastructure that India has built, whether it be in form of digital payments or in the form of the mobile economy, and of course the app economy now. So, I think India is actually well ahead of a lot of other countries, even much more developed countries than us, in terms of the kind of infrastructure we've built. And I think a lot of it has been built by very smart entrepreneurs in India, who historically might have moved to the US to take up jobs in Silicon Valley, but now they're, like us, realizing that the opportunity in India is too large to pass up. And so they're building these companies in India. And these are some, and as I said, these tech companies that are being built in India are world class. So in terms of the growth, I think we're still very, very early as a country. All of the tailwinds are there behind us. If I look at beauty and personal care in particular, we currently have the lowest per capita spend, one of the lowest per capita spends on BPC in the world.
Where are we right now?
Right now we're at $15, 15. And if I look at similar economies in terms of GDP per capita, like in Southeast Asia, they spend around $40 to $50 per capita per year. And then, of course, if I move to more developed markets like in Europe and in North America, they're spending upwards of $300 per year on beauty.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
So, you can be a half glass full, half glass empty kind of individual. We see ourselves as half glass being half full, which means that is the opportunity we have ahead of us. It's going to be a multi-decade growth story. Now, Adwaita mentioned about when we started Nykaa, there was a lot of naysayers. And she's absolutely right that in the early days, everybody said, why would you want to do beauty and personal care? It is such a small category in India. There are larger categories. If you're interested in consumer discretionary, there are larger categories like electronics, fashion, apparel, grocery, of course. And beauty seemed like a very small addressable market. But I think what we realize is if you build it, they will come. Because we saw beauty was big business everywhere else in the world. And so when we started the business, beauty and personal care consumption in India was at $6. So in less than a decade, we've more than doubled it, in large part because of the kind of education, the kind of content, the kind of awareness which we've created for the category. And secondly, by building the distribution. I think that was also missing. If you look at India 2012-13, if you wanted to buy beauty and personal care, the only place to buy it was in your department store.
Stores, yeah.
And department stores were also very limited. So by building an online platform, we brought beauty to the doorstep of every Indian anywhere in the country. So we built the distribution, and I think that was a huge unlock for the acceleration of the category growth. And the third thing is we brought the best global products into India. We went, traveled the world, met with all these global beauty brands and convinced them that the market may be small today, but if you get in early, you can really benefit from a multi-decade growth story. And so we brought the best the world had to offer into India. So now Indian consumers have access to the best global and domestic brands. They have the penetration has improved and is increasing thanks to players like Nykaa, who are building both a very strong online platform as well as very wide offline distribution. And third, as I said, we're driving the awareness agenda, which is getting women to understand the importance that beauty can play in their lives and increasing what we call premiumizing the category, which means increasing not just the price of the products that they're buying, but equally importantly, increasing the frequency with which they're buying, increasing the number of items which they're buying, and making sure that their beauty regime evolves over time to become a lot more sophisticated.
Yeah, that's a lot to unlayer there, but let me start with the digital bit that you talked about, because India is definitely growing by leaps and bounds there, but it's also throwing up competition and maybe just disruption at that. quick commerce, of course, is the new thing, and we have all gotten used to it. We are actually, now expect a 10-minute delivery for pretty much everything. How are you looking at dealing with this disruption, and what would it mean for your fulfillment costs, same-day delivery, etc.?
Yeah. I think Anchit's looking at that part of the business.
So I will say that retail in India is a massive business. It's a $1 trillion plus opportunity, and within that, as I said, BPC is probably one of the fastest growing categories within the consumer discretionary space. It's expected to grow at roughly 12 to 15% CAGR over the next 15 years. And if I look at, within that, if I look at online beauty is expected to grow at almost mid-20s plus over the next 10, 15 years. So it's massive growth. So the market is still very nascent and very small. And where it is today is in large part thanks to players like us who have done the work of building the category, growing the category. However, there is so much more to be done for us to get to a size and scale as a category that is at a level comparable to where we should be given our population, our demographics, and our now growing GDP per capita. So our point of view actually, and it might be counterintuitive to you, but is that competition will actually help to accelerate the growth of this category. If we were able to bring per capita consumption from $6 to $15, can competition actually help us to expand that per capita consumption and grow the market for everybody? If we were in a market that was already well developed and was a single-digit grower, and competition was to then kick in, I would say yes, then it's a challenge. But in a market where we're just getting off the ground, where the growth is going to be mid-20s and potentially could be higher if the competition also helps us build the market, I think that we are actually quite positive on it. We think it helps the category grow. And finally, we also believe that Nykaa has an advantage, and the advantages are many. For example, we already have probably the largest base of beauty shoppers in India today on Nykaa, right? We have 26 million customers who've ever transacted on our platform. Every year, we're acquiring millions and millions more. So we have a very large base of probably the most premium, most beauty-obsessed shoppers in India. Secondly, we have 200 plus physical retail stores across 72 cities. So we have not only the largest online platform for beauty, we also have the largest physical retail platform for beauty. Now, third, we also have an incredible assortment of brands, as I said, both global and domestic on the platform that is difficult to replicate. And fourth, we are a large influencer in this space. Consumers look to Nykaa to understand beauty trends, to know what's next, what's big, and we use that influence to continue to up-level the consumer. And finally, we also have our own brands. We have a portfolio of our own brands that are doing quite well on the platform. And that is also something that gives us an edge. So I think, there is a lot that we've done over the past 12 years. We're doing a lot more now. And our goal is to always stay ahead of the competition and to focus on category creation. And that will continue to be our main objective. So we're not too worried. As I said, it could be a blessing for the category as a whole. Now, when I talk about quick commerce, to your question,
Distribution,
I think quick commerce is it's a real, again, an example of how ahead of other countries India is. Quick commerce was tried in other markets; it didn't really work, and in India, it's doing well. There clearly is a product market fit, and it's nice to watch young founders and young companies really leading the way on that. For us, however, I'd like to say that I think this is something that a lot of folks don't know, is that we're already very advanced in our own what we call speed of delivery. Just to give you a sense, 3 years ago we had only 18 warehouses in India, which is a lot, but it was 18. Today we're at 44, and we have almost I think something like 15 lakh square feet of warehouse capacity in the country across 44 warehouses, which we've, as I said, almost more than tripled in the past 3 years. And as a result, today, we are delivering all of our orders across anywhere in the country, north, south, east, west, small towns, large cities, within 48 hours. And 60% plus, 65% of all of our orders in the top 110 cities, which is where a lot of the demand comes from, is being delivered either same day or next day. So we're already giving what we feel as best-in-class speed of delivery, same day or next day delivery, which you can assume is like within 24 hours. 65% of all orders within the 110 cities in India are being fulfilled within 24 hours. So I think that's quite already a very strong customer value proposition. Now, please remember, we are doing that across 150,000 SKUs, right? Across thousands of brands. So we are managing to give consumer the choice of assortment as well as the convenience of quick delivery. I think right now, quick commerce is at a point where they're not able to give that kind of depth of assortment for 10-minute delivery. So we believe that giving that entire assortment available within short delivery times like same day or next day is where the, what I would say is where the bullseye is.
The puzzle is missing right now.
Yeah, it's where the bullseye is, you know. And we continue to strengthen that capability. So you'll see that over the next several quarters, our same day and next day delivery ratios will continue to improve from 65%. And our plan is that, yes, at some point in the near future, almost 100% of orders should be completed within same day or next day. And in the top 7 metros, if I reduce the net a bit, there we are now piloting our own version of quick deliveries. We don't call it quick commerce, but we call it quick deliveries. And there, you know, we already have, as I said, we have 200 plus physical retail stores across 72 cities. If I look at major metros like Bombay and Delhi, we have anywhere from 15 to 20 stores in these cities each. So how can we leverage our existing store network? How can we leverage what we call as micro warehouses in these cities to actually make the speed of delivery even faster in a matter of hours or a matter of minutes? So I think that's something also that we're layering in. So we don't see it as quick commerce only. It needs to be same day delivery, next day delivery, and delivery in minutes/hours based on where you live. And at the same time ensuring that we have the entire assortment available for that level of service and sales. So it's slightly long answer, but it is an area which we're incredibly focused on and have been focused on for many last 2-3 years, and will continue to do so.
Sorry, I just want to complete that point, and I have a couple of follow-ups there. A, what will it mean for your fulfillment costs? Because, of course, if you're looking at expanding so much, it will involve a lot of costs as well. And secondly, with respect to utilizing the platforms which are already set, why not just partner with a Blinkit or a Zepto of the world and just utilize those platforms as well?
So in terms of fulfillment cost, we've not disclosed what it will be, but it should not be meaningful.
Okay.
Because I think the difference is a couple things. One is, as you know, we built all of Nykaa and whatever value it is worth today with all of $130 million US, right? That includes the money we raised in the IPO.
Wow,
so we are
quite
incredibly,
bootstrapped version
very bootstrapped, and so we are an incredibly capital efficient company, and we have tremendous respect for what we call as return on capital employed. And you see some of these other players in this space raising billions of dollars, and we are not able to understand why that is required, even to build this capability. So when we do our math, when we run our, we feel that this is not going to be a large investment for us. Now, also it may be because we are just doing this for one particular category, which is we're just doing for beauty, right? Whereas the other players are doing it across multiple categories. So it's not expected to be a very meaningful impact in terms of the investment required.
And the other one, using other platforms, are you open to that?
We as a company, if we have the expertise, if we know how to run this business, which look, in terms of managing inventory, we've been doing it for over a decade. We know how to manage inventory well. We know how to forecast demand well. We have a lot of data that supports our forecast models. So we feel comfortable with being able to manage inventory, replicate inventory, and deliver to end consumer. Now, of course, for last mile delivery, we will be using third-party vendors like all the third-party logistics providers who are there in the market. But in terms of operating and running our own mini warehouses, I think that is a strength of ours. It's been a strength of ours in the past, and we want to continue to do that ourselves.
Interesting. You talked about the kind of SKUs all of these delivery apps, etc. are providing. Do you see apparel being a part of it? Because they've already reached to, let's say, sneakers, shoes, jewelry, and all of that. Do you see apparels being delivered in quick commerce as well?
Look, I think there's a use case for SKUs across all categories in quick commerce, and there's like a 15-minute delivery proposition that can extend to all categories. But I do believe that categories that are a little bit more inspiration-based, like fashion, where people want to explore a lot before they commit and buy. And similarly, even beauty, it is a inspiration-led category. I think vertical players like us, which have a lot of depth of catalog and enough SKU range, I think those categories are better suited for vertical. So my point is that yes, quick commerce can touch on all categories, but the sheer complexity of both beauty and fashion also mean that vertical commerce has a very big role to play there.
See, Nykaa sees its responsibility as I said in the beginning, category creation, demand generation. Demand generation because we are a platform that lends itself well to discovery. Quick commerce, on the other hand, will be a platform that will meet existing demand for products within BPC, but it will never be a demand generation platform because of the assortment as well as their ability to really create education, content, etc. So they serve a different purpose in the environment. They are better suited for what I would say as more FMCG type SKUs. Even within BPC, SKUs that you need within minutes are a few and at a slightly lower price point, whereas we are servicing multiple subcategories within beauty and at various price points. So I think there is a role for them to play, but it is still doesn't change the fact that Nykaa has to continue to grow this market for all stakeholders in the industry.
Yeah, and I think we see a lot of metrics in terms of how customers use our app. So like on our beauty app, for example, a unique visitor visits the app 50 times in a year. In beauty, when we do customer work and talk to customers, we understand that, in fashion, when we talk to customers, we understand that, a daughter and her mother just sit and open the Nykaa fashion app at night and just scroll. It's like the way they pass time,
Guilty as charged.
So I think, both those anecdotes, one numerical and one anecdotal, will just teach you that both of these are categories which are about discovery. Women want to just keep discovering what's going on, what's new. It's not just an uber transactional category.
But you know what, while you were a category creator when it comes to the beauty products, I might not extend that credit to when it comes to apparel because that was a category which existed. There was a demand and you knew that, that's a space that existed already. What led you to diversify into that? And are you looking at diversifying further into other categories from here on?
Yeah. So, about 5 years ago, we had this, beautiful beauty business that we were extremely excited about. And we felt that, through that, we learned about Indian consumers, we learned about technology, and we found that fashion was a really exciting opportunity that lay out there. So fashion is about 5 times the size of the beauty market. So if BPC in India is about 20 billion USD, fashion is a 100 billion USD market. So we thought, okay, it's a massive market. Yes, we were not the first movers. So when we looked around, we felt that we'd really need to create a differentiated proposition. And so we honed in on this proposition that can we be, the most curated, fashion-forward, trend-led destination for fashion that was slightly more premium than anything else that was out there. And so once we had this sort of unique proposition, we felt ready to enter the fashion market. And we did feel like it was a really serious gap. And so that's what we've been trying to build. And I do think that we found great product market fit. In the last 4 to 5 years, it's already a 3,000 crore business. It contributes 30% of our consolidated company's GMV with fantastic repeat ratios. So I think we have found ourselves a piece of the pie. And yes, the businesses are incredibly different. In beauty, we were first movers. We have 30% plus market share. In fashion, we are definitely not first movers. We're entering a very established market, but we feel that we've found a niche for ourselves that's really valuable, where there's a profitable and a good-sized business to be built, and we're just really focused on building something differentiated. So very excited about fashion, just given the sheer size of the opportunity, and we feel that we're just on the cusp of lots of interesting opportunities coming our way when it comes to fashion. So we have this multi-brand fashion app, which hopefully everyone watching has used. But we also are starting to strike partnerships. Recently we struck a partnership with Foot Locker USA, and we're being their e-commerce partner and bringing them into the country. So we think there's a lot of interesting opportunities beyond even the multi-brand portfolio and platform that will come our way.
Yeah, sure. But, in your earlier conversations and one of the interviews, you did say that fashion has been given a long leash when it comes to profitability because, of course, it's not broken even yet. Is FY26 a realistic time to do that? And what's the way forward with respect to the margin expansion bit?
Yeah, so I think, we definitely have our eye on profitability and breaking even. I won't be giving what time frame we're thinking in that regard, but every sort of quarter we're pushing the needle on profitability. Just between FY23 and 24, there were 600 bips of EBITDA improvement. which we have released in the past as well. So I think just very relentless focus on driving top line, but with sequential, constant improvement on bottom line as well.
Yeah, sure. You talked about the partnership with Foot Locker. Talk to me a bit more about that. What kind of opportunity do you see there? What's the game plan?
So Foot Locker, as you know, is a fantastic US-based footwear and sports company, and they wanted to enter India. And so basically, we've teamed up with Metro. So Metro and Nykaa Fashion will be their India partners. Metro will be opening physical stores for them, and we'll be running their online platforms as well as listing their entire portfolio on Nykaa Fashion. We're super excited about it because obviously footwear and sports is taking off in India in a mega way. This gives us access to some of the most incredible footwear brands and sports brands in the country. And just it's a fantastic partnership with a really iconic global retailer. So really excited about it because it's just in the right space that we want to enter.
That's interesting because international, brands coming to India, that has been set, as far as BPC is concerned, we have seen a lot of them coming to India. Is that the way forward as well? Are you in conversations with a lot of them right now who are excited about India?
Yes. So a short answer is yes. I'll rewind to 2018 when I first joined Nykaa. My first few trips were to Dubai and to Singapore and to the US to meet brands to convince them about the India opportunity. And in 2018, every brand I met would say, you know what, we hear you. India is definitely an exciting opportunity. But today we are very occupied with China. All resources, bandwidth, investment was all going towards growing their businesses in China. And India was not a priority for global beauty brands to the extent that it should have been given the size of the market and the opportunity, more importantly, the opportunity ahead. But as Nykaa, we stuck to it, and every year we would go and visit them and continue to update them on on what was panning out in India and this incredible platform that we were building and all the amazing domestic brands who were growing in the market. And I think what happened obviously was the pandemic hit, and coming out of the pandemic, India has been very proactive to get back to business as usual. However, in China, that wasn't the case. And a lot of these brands who were overly dependent on China have been unhappy and dissatisfied with the recovery out of the pandemic in China. And since so much of their business was dependent on that market, it has been difficult for them. And as a result, they're looking for an alternative to China. And India stacks up very, very well on many key metrics, whether it be the GDP per capita that's growing, the number of high-income households and middle-income households that will have the ability to spend on discretionary categories like beauty, as well as the fact that so many more women are coming into the workplace and are graduating from colleges and universities. So it was kind of a perfect storm in the sense that China was subdued, India was accelerating, and so 2021, 2022, all of a sudden there's tremendous excitement from beauty brands about India. And in the past 18, 24 months, we have seen that play out where Nykaa has brought a lot of the best global brands into the country. And as I was telling you before this interview, the global CEOs of some of the biggest beauty companies in the world have been in India over the past 12 months and or will be coming over the next several months. So India has become priority number one or number two, top one or two priorities for a lot of the best global beauty brands and companies. And Nykaa is seen as their trusted partner to help them to understand India, to access the market, and to grow their business in a sustainable and in a quality way. Because as you know, unlike other online platforms, our focus is on building brand equity and helping brands to localize themselves and to really create a connect with the consumer, and not just about transacting at a certain price or discounts. And as a retailer, as you know, we also don't do any retailer-funded discounting, which is quite rare in the online space. So brands see us as a trusted advisor who understands this market, who understands this category, and will take care and respect their brand identity. So we are a big beneficiary of this excitement and interest in India, and we continue to travel and continue to meet brands and convince them about the India opportunity. But that job has become a lot easier today than it was 5 years ago.
That's good to hear. At least some things are getting easier. But you talked about discounting, and Adwaita, I want your take on this because you have seen how the category has actually taken off. What's the relationship of Indians with discounting? How's that, the consumer trend in India there?
So I think if you think about the last 12 years, definitely there's been an increase since we've been in this business. There's been an increase in discounts. You see all brands, increasing their discounts over time. Why did it happen? I think honestly, to some degree, retailers in the ecosystem are a little bit guilty in that they started discounting out of their own pockets and starting putting pressure on brands to discount. Whereas Nykaa always had a philosophy that we will not discount out of our own pockets. We're just here to translate the prices of the brands. So a combination of e-commerce players doing a lot of discounting out of their own pockets, and then brands not having the discipline to kind of stay away from discounts, I think it has led to a world where we're looking at a lot more discounts than ever before. I think there's a slight correction that we're actually starting to see. I think in FY24 and 25, we're starting to see a lot of brands unwind some of their discounting levels, which I think is great because I think we're just giving away value in the chain of in the whole chain here. So I think you're starting to see brands unwind because I don't think it's sustainable for the kind of discounting that's being done. And I think bringing another perspective in as a retailer, when we look at the brands that are selling, we see brands doing well with all sorts of discounting strategies. You will have a brand doing very well who's doing that very high discounting strategy. They also do well. But you also have brands who have no discounts and they also do extremely well. So I don't think it's a golden rule that more discounts mean more sales. I think if brands have discipline to also be disciplined in their discounting and they're consistent with it, the customer accepts it and they can also do well. So it's what you teach your customer. The customer is very smart. They'll pick up very quickly that this is a discounted brand, this is not a discounted brand, and they'll accept either.
Yeah, and there's a market for everyone in India, and that's the interesting bit. You have a demand at every price point and every level.
But if I can just add to that,
sure.
For Nykaa, the philosophy is simple. It's sell the right product to the right consumer at the right price. We would rather have the consumer be happy with their purchase than have them buy something that they don't need or that they don't really want, but that they've bought because it's at a high discount. Right? So I think it's about, we're in the business of quality, we're in the business of authenticity, and we believe that Indian consumers are willing to pay the right price for the right product. And so we've never, as you can see from our assortment, from our portfolio of brands and products, these are really tremendous high quality brands from around the world. Now, when we talk about not discounting out of our pocket, it's not that we don't want to pass value to the consumers, it's that we also have tremendous respect for our brand partners. And there is a reason why they want to offer a certain incentive to the consumer and not more. When retailers start to add incremental discount on top of what the brand is already willing to offer, it does a huge disservice to the brand. Because then the consumer believes that this is a brand that is always on high discount, and that can lead to the commoditization of the category. If you look at what happened in certain other categories, like maybe electronics or in certain parts of fashion, people don't shop by brand, they shop by price. And all those beautiful brands have become totally commoditized. So in beauty, we said, we have some of the most beautiful beauty brands in the world available on Nykaa who have these brands, whether they be from L'Oreal or they be from Bersdorf or from Estée Lauder Group or even Hindustan Unilever. These brands have been built with so much investment in research and development, in innovation, in quality control, in marketing to build their brand equity. That those are the strengths we want to talk about, and those are the things we want the consumer to be aware about, and not allow this category to become a commodity category where people are no longer shopping by brand, but they're shopping by price. And that is our commitment to our brand partners, without whom we wouldn't be in this business. And it's our commitment to the consumer, that buy the right product at the right price.
Right product, right price, right consumer. That's the motto. We were talking about international brands coming to India, but you are going international as well with your expansion in GCC territories. Talk to me about what kind of investments and scale up are you expecting there, and are there any more territories that you guys are watching out for expansion?
So I think we're excited about the Middle East. As you know, we've entered a joint venture with the apparel group. I think what excites us the most about the Middle East is just the sheer appetite for beauty in the region. So the BPC GDP, the BPC spend per capita in the Middle East or in the UAE in particular is 500 USD versus the $15 that we mentioned in India. So it's just an incredibly exciting market from the sheer amount of beauty that is bought. I think another really exciting trend with the Middle East is, how young the population is. So it's a very young population that's very excited about beauty, and we wanted to be there. We've opened one store in Dubai so far, and we have a bunch more in the pipeline, and we're just getting really excited about the whole region. So we're definitely committed to it and moving forward on it.
But any number that you can give me in terms of what the store expansion plan is, what the investment that you are talking about, what could be the contribution from this going forward?
So we've disclosed in our annual day that the plan is to open about 70 stores in the GCC over the next 5 years. Beyond that, we haven't shared in terms of the investment. But as we said, it's a partnership with the apparel group, and it's 70 stores over the next 5 years. And please keep in mind that GCC has incredibly high per capita spend on beauty, but if you look at the e-commerce infrastructure, it's actually quite underdeveloped. And that was a very large opportunity for us because we realized that anybody who builds a digital business in India has built a business that is best in class and can actually be replicated elsewhere in other markets. So we've built this amazing playbook on how to build an omni-channel retail platform. And can we replicate that in the Middle East where the consumption is high, but the e-commerce leg is missing? So yes, we'll have 70 stores, but we'll also have a very strong online play in the Middle East. And we think the two combined is something that is not being done at scale in that region, and we could be uniquely positioned to benefit from that.
Okay, so that's another growth driver. But what about Nykaa Man? That too has taken off quite well.
Yeah, we're excited about Nykaa Man as well. I think when you look at the US as well, I think there's a big trend now emerging towards men's lifestyle consumption. So both in beauty and in fashion, we think there's an opportunity to build a real men's-focused retailing platform that brings, again, very trendy, very premium brands together. So I think there's a lot of consumption happening in men's premium fashion and lifestyle, and we want to lead the way there. I think it's an idea that's early for its time, but we do think it's the right place to be positioned for the future. I think, why should women all have all the fun? So
Why
even
not,
even on our beauty platform, we see that men do shop a lot. And it's, I don't know if, do you know the percentage of men's consumption on Nykaa Beauty?
I do know it, but it's not something which we talk about. But I think, Anisha, it's a great question. And what I'll say is that, what did I say in the beginning of this meeting? I said that if you build it, they will come, right? And you have to be ahead of, you have to think about where is the consumer going. If you're solving just for where the consumer is, I think you'll be a dinosaur. You'll be totally irrelevant in a few years. So for Nykaa, the objective is always absolutely continue to cater to where the consumer is today and always be better every day in doing so. So whether it be opening stores, bringing new brands, improving our speed of delivery, as I spoke about, which is now best in class. Those are all about solving for the category which is beauty for women, where the consumer is today. But you also need to continue to build growth engines and identify opportunities for the future. And I think fashion was one which we identified 5 years ago. And you've seen the benefit that's had to our business, consolidated business, over the past few years, whether it has increased our overall size of business in terms of GMV, but it's also brought us a lot of new customers into the Nykaa funnel. It's also given us a lot more brand awareness in a much larger addressable market. So same thing with the Nykaa Man. We think that we have built the infrastructure to support a big play in men's, what we call as beauty and personal care, as well as fashion, so lifestyle. But right now we are still waiting to see that spark that is going to trigger the massive growth in the men's consumption of these categories. So we are there, we are investing behind it, we are obviously catering to a decent amount of business in that front. But as and when it does, and by the way, the responsibility is on players like us to drive the awareness and drive the growth of the category. And when we do that, we think that we'll see strong growth, acceleration in growth for Nykaa Man business in the coming years.
Sure. You want to be ahead of the consumer demand, but that also opens up the risk that not everything is going to work. There is going to be, some sort of business that you start which might not get takers. How and when do you decide to pivot from something that you've started and say it's not working? How do you guys go about that?
Yeah. So, to be honest, I think right now we're feeling pretty confident about the businesses that we've put in motion. So we've got this beauty retail platform, this fashion retail platform, the Nykaa Man business, the distribution business, the Middle East business, and our House of Brands business. So, at this point, we feel like these are the right bets. And we don't really think about shutting anything down. We think more about how do we make it work. Because fundamentally, we think first principles up, there's an opportunity in each of these. And we believe that there's a profitable and a sustainable business to be built in each of these. So it's more about making the business work, delivering the right product market fit to the customer, really solving the consumer needs, and more like iterating every single day, every single year to make the business work.
Make the business work. That's interesting. But what do you see as the biggest challenge right now? We talked about the opportunities which are there, but what do you think could perhaps derail the story a bit, or something that you're very, you're very watchful of, watching it very closely right now? Is it the Indian consumption? Because we're talking about, demand tapering off a bit. Festive season hasn't started that well. What are you guys watching out for in terms of challenges?
So, I think we are so bullish on the long-term growth story in India that one doesn't really worry or think too much about the short-term blips in consumption here or there. And our businesses are growing well. But I think if you really keep a 10-year, 15-year, 20-year time horizon, there's just so much positive momentum in this space that we feel that we're really well positioned and poised for that. In fact, I think if there's anything one fears, it's less on the actual business opportunity and more just you want to make sure that day in, day out, you're creating the right culture within the company. So I think something that's really top of mind for me is obviously Nykaa is a much larger company today than when we started. And so how do we make sure that it's still as nimble, still as entrepreneurial, still as high on ownership amongst the folks who work here, and not bureaucratic. I think that's the thing that really motivates me, that just make sure that the team feels really tight and lean all the time.
Okay, but Gen AI, all of the buzzword in town right now, do you see that having some sort of application in your part of the world?
Yeah, look, I would say Gen AI has probably progressed to being now more than just a buzzword. There are seriously beneficial applications to AI and many use cases in an e-commerce business like ours, but also in any consumer-facing business. So we're very lucky whereby we have our DNA is also tech first as a company. Yes, we are a retailer. We're a consumer company, we're a retailer, we're a distributor, but we're also a very, very strong technology company. And everything we've built at Nykaa has been tech first. So we have almost 650 engineers sitting in Gurgaon, and they are incredibly bright, and they're working on some really interesting projects involving AI. So I think there are many use cases, whether it be in terms of search and discovery, whether it be in terms of catalog optimization, or even in terms of training our beauty advisors in the stores. How can we apply AI there? Also for personalized shopping on the app. So there's a lot of different use cases which we are currently experimenting with, and wherever we see a good fit, we will launch it at scale, and you will see that in the coming years.
Adwaita mentioned that what motivates her is creating a good business and making sure that everybody is on their toes and, just ahead of everything. What motivates you in the sense that, are you guys driven by share prices? Are you driven by, do you have some, market capitalization aspirations? Or are you getting a bit frustrated in the sense that, and I'm being very candid here, the stock price of Nykaa hasn't taken off while we're in the mother of all bull runs right now. Do you get frustrated that the street is not understanding the value or is not really getting the story here?
What I'll say is that, I meet with a lot of investors, and they all really love the business. They see Nykaa as being one of the biggest beneficiaries of the consumption story in India, and it's without a doubt we are well positioned to benefit from that, right? We're in two large businesses, beauty and fashion. We have an incredible brand equity. Nykaa brand itself is very strong with young women and women of a certain age group. And if you look at, as I said earlier, we've built the entire company with $130 million of investment. And we were a profitable company before we went public, which is also unique for our peer set. And the reason was because I think a lot of credit has to be given to Falguni, because as an ex-investment banker, she understood that you cannot build a business in an unprofitable way with unprofitable unit economics and then cut costs to drive profitability later on. You have to build a business with strong fundamentals. So as a result, our business was profitable before we went public. And the profitability of each of our businesses has improved significantly since the IPO. So if I look at our beauty and personal care business, that has improved its contribution margin by 250, 300 basis points. And that's already a very healthy business from a profitability perspective. Now, at the time of IPO, fashion and our B2B business were pretty much non-existent. We had just started them. So 90% plus of our GMV was coming from beauty. Now, fashion and B2B contribute up to, as Adwaita said, almost a third of our overall GMV. And those businesses have also, by the way, improved their profitability even more meaningfully than the beauty business over the past 2 to 3 years since the IPO. So each business unit has improved year over year in terms of its profitability. But as the fashion and B2B businesses, which are our younger businesses, our growth businesses, as they continue to grow faster than the BPC business, obviously coming off of a smaller base, and their profitability is lower than the BPC business, as they account for a larger percent of the overall GMV, that's why the consolidated level, you're not seeing that same level of improvement in profitability that you're seeing in each of the respective businesses. So I think that is the piece that sometimes we need to explain to the investors, because they look at hundreds of stocks in a day and they just keep looking at one number. So that's something that we try to explain. And the reality is that if you do not invest in new businesses today, as I said earlier, there is a chance that at some point, maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, the growth does start to slow. So it's very important to always have growth engines in place. And that's the call we took with fashion and B2B, that those are the growth businesses of our future. Beauty was the growth business. And by the way, beauty continues to be a very strong growing business, but we think fashion and B2B have tremendous opportunity as well. So no, I'm not impacted. We don't get impacted by the share price. I think the good thing about what I like about promoter businesses in India is that there is this commitment to long-term value creation and not necessarily short-term, only thinking short-term. And so for us, the same applies. We believe in India, we believe in the consumption story, and we believe that what we've built is a fantastic product that has got a lot of product market fit and is loved by Indian consumers. So if we keep doing right by the consumer, we keep doing right by our brand partners, we're sure that we're going to continue to grow this business. And over time, we think that the investment community will see that as well. And just so you know, by the way, that the stock price is up from where we IPO'd, right? I think when we IPO'd, there was a run up in the stock post listing, yes. But that was not our doing. I think a lot of that is also sentiment in the market. So I think the fundamentals of the business are very strong. Investors like the story. And as I said, as fashion and B2B continue to grow, and as they continue to improve their profitability, the story should play out.
Mm-hmm. But you talked about the promoter-led businesses. At some point of time, are you guys looking at diluting some of the stake? Do you see the need for capital? I know you have been very, very prudent with your capital so far, but what's the way forward?
Look, if our beauty and our business is generating enough cash flow to support the existing businesses as well as invest in our new businesses. So there is no real need for capital. Okay. As I said, we're a profitable business and have been since much before our IPO. And so the business is sustaining itself, and it's leaving us with enough capital to invest in new initiatives. Like I spoke about the massive warehouse expansion we had done. We continue to open 50 stores a year, which is also an investment. And we continue to build new brands. So everything which we need capital for, we are already generating from within the existing business. So there is not a need currently for raising capital. And in terms of us as a family, we are more convinced about the India opportunity now than ever. And by the way, that improves every year. Every year, we get even more convinced that we are in the right business, we're in the right space, we're in the right country at the right time. So I don't, we can't really comment on that. But all I can say is we are very, very committed to what we're trying to build here.
Okay, so that was about the business side of things, but let me try and get more sense in terms of how do you guys look at business and your own leadership styles. How's it working, the three of you working together? She said it's very complementary, but I'm sure there will be those, knickknacks that happen, or difference in terms of work-life balance, expectations, different work styles.
Yeah, I think honestly we love working together. The three
No
of us.
fights whatsoever?
Oh, there are lots of fights. But, I think there's an underlying bedrock of a whole lot of trust. I think Anchit and I are twins. We've been like best friends growing up as well. So there's a lot of just trust and camaraderie between the two of us. So yes, there are lots of disagreements. And I would say all three of us are pretty ferocious in how we voice our disagreements with each other. But, once we sort of align and commit to whatever the path is forward, we're really a really strong unit. And then we proceed. So I'm not just saying that. We just genuinely love working together. We think you're just so much more powerful when there are three of you to take each other's back, to take on different business risks and support each other. It makes for a very strong, formidable, team. And then, of course, we're supported by incredible professionals. We have loads of professionals at the top management level who work alongside us, with us, and we think of all of us collectively as a unit.
But does anyone have a veto? That's the final decision and the buck stops there? Is Falguni the one?
Definitely our mother. She is the ultimate decision maker. And she typically listens to all our opinions, but ultimately, what she decides is what we go with.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would, one thing I'd add is, there is, and I think it was the most important thing in a relationship amongst family members who are working together is respect. And the three of us have a tremendous amount of respect for one another for different reasons. For example, Falguni, of course, built this business from scratch. And so we really respect her instinct, the way she thinks about businesses of the future, and her ability to see things that others cannot see. With Adwaita, I really respect the way she puts the consumer at the center of everything that she does. Very consumer backward thinking and very, very detail oriented in terms of execution. And finally, a skill that she has that I personally that she has much more than myself and even Falguni is an empathy for the people at Nykaa. And a lot of who we are today in terms of our culture as an organization, in terms of the kind of things we like to be known for is in large part thanks to Adwaita's personal interest in driving that mission at Nykaa to become an empathetic company for our employees as well as for all of our stakeholders, our vendors, our partners, our shareholders. And so I think respect is the bedrock of any family in business together. We don't say this is not a family business. I would say it's a family in business. And, we look at this, as a family, we grew up very much as professionals. My parents, as well as Adwaita and I, have been professionals in previous careers. So we see a lot of value in marrying the best of both worlds. What it is to be a professional, the kind of skill set, the kind of knowledge and best practice that we get from that side. And also, family brings a lot of long-term thinking, a lot of respect and trust that I mentioned. So I think it's the marrying of both that has made us very unique in India, actually. Not many companies look like us in that sense. And so we're really, really fortunate to be in that situation.
What, guys? No sibling rivalry at all? I mean, you're putting me to shame because me and my brother are very competitive with each other and huge amount of sibling rivalry.
What I'll say is we definitely are competitive and we do tend to have squabbles like any other siblings. But luckily, they're on very small, inconsequential things. I don't even want to get into it.
What would be the recent one on?
I would say we are not competitive at all professionally. And we fight about stupid personal stuff, like what we're having for dinner and...
Okay, can I put that stupid question, one of the stupid questions? Whom does mom love more?
I would say me, but I think I'll get in trouble. I would say it was probably me growing up.
Or the third child, Nykaa?
Well, that's a very... you might be right, and that would be... You wouldn't be far off the mark. I would say that, in terms of fighting with Adwaita, that has reduced a lot because now she has a young daughter, barely 2 months old. And, for me, it's just so special to see her become a mother. And so now I don't feel like fighting with her because then I also won't get access to my niece. So now whatever Adwaita says goes, even in the small squabbles. No, but I think on a serious note, professionally, as Adwaita said, we might disagree, but the disagreements are never to be done publicly, always privately. And finally, whoever has the better reason to do something, we'll go with that. And then we will support it wholeheartedly. And then, as I said, we're a unit. Because you never want to show publicly anyway, because we have 4,000 people at Nykaa. We have another 4,000 in our warehouses. We have thousands of vendors we work with, brand partners. It's a massive ecosystem which we're supporting, and they need to believe that we are confident and we are taking a decision we all agreed. So I think it's that's the thing that goes back to being family in business together, is that we trust each other and we respect each other. So even if we are not on the same page on something, we know that they're coming from the absolute right place, and we tend to stick by each other's decisions in the professional front.
By the way, congratulations, Adwaita, for that on your motherhood.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure if I was able to disclose in this interview, but the breaking news.
No, not breaking news, but I just wanted to get a bit of sense from you. How are you looking at the work-life balance now? I mean, you're back at work already. I'm sure you're managing it too, but what's work-life balance to you?
I am back at work, and to be honest, I am finding it difficult. My baby's just 2 months old. I think it's a mind-shifting, mind-boggling experience to become a mother, because overnight your identity sort of shifts and suddenly your number one priority is your child. But I think a very close number two is Nykaa, and I do feel that I have immense responsibility here towards the people that we manage and the businesses that I take on. And so I think it's a non-negotiable that you have to commit to work as well. So to me, it's a non-negotiable. I have to be an absolutely fantastic mother, but I also have immense responsibility at Nykaa. And until I'm in the operating seat and actually taking responsibility of the business, there's no way to not do that job 100% either.
Okay, I'm going to put you both on a spot here and ask you that question. And if you can, please answer together. Does Nykaa have a startup vibe or a corporate vibe?
Startup.
Wow, that was in unison. Okay,
yeah.
That's interesting. Which one of you would you call the more astute in terms of having more business acumen?
Adwaita?
I like the way she was quiet. She's like, yes, it's me.
No, I think Anchit is very commercially savvy.
Okay.
So I think we have different business skill sets.
Fair enough. Which of you had that rebel phase, if at all, that teenage angst and a rebel phase? Either of you or neither of you?
Adwaita. I think hard to believe when you watch this interview, but it's the truth.
And suddenly how you've become a mother and now you must be thinking about it. I hope my child doesn't follow that path, at least that I have to go through that. But profitability or growth?
Profitability.
I was going to say both, yeah.
But okay, profitability, that's interesting. Whom do you go?
Different answer, different point in our journey.
No, fair enough. And I guess when she says both, she does, of course, mean profitability along with that. But whom do you go for advice, Sanjay or Falguni?
Falguni.
I was going to say both for different things.
No, but you have to pick one.
I think Falguni, obviously, because we work with her. So a lot of work-related advice one gets from her.
Okay, and how do you see your leadership style evolving? Let's say when you started off in 2012 and what you thought of, building Nykaa, and when you, working in US, etc. How's your leadership style or your way of looking at work has changed?
Yeah, so, for me, Nykaa was pretty much my first job back now 11, 12 years ago. And I was thrown into leadership and management at a really young age. And I think...
Was it difficult at that time to get the respect from people, or did you ever get shunned away saying, these are kids, they don't know what they're doing? Because I'm sure you're working with professionals who might be older and wiser in that sense.
Yeah, I think, of course, in the early years, you're still trying to find your own footing as a manager. You're still trying to figure out how to earn the respect of others. So I think the early years are difficult for any young, early professional, and particularly then when you have large teams to manage and so forth. But I do think that, you do hit your stride, and I do feel that one has hit one's stride when it comes to management and leadership. And for me personally, I've honed in on sort of a leadership philosophy, which is to lead with equal measure of mind and heart. And I think for me, what that really means is, look, you have to be rigorous and hardworking and know your business inside out, because again, you owe it to your business, you owe it to your teams, and that's the only way to get people's respect. But I also truly believe that you need to bring a lot of compassion and empathy in every interaction, because at the end of the day, we have, like Anchit said, we touch almost 10,000 people's lives through Nykaa, whether it's our employees or our warehouse staff or vendors and so forth. And I mean, these are humans. And so I think bringing a human lens to management and leadership is really important to me as well.
Yeah, I want to ask this question to her because I know what she does now at 2 a.m. But what perhaps is your style of detaching yourself from work, if at all you ever get detached?
Yeah, let me first also answer the earlier question, because I think it's an important one. I was lucky to spend my first 7 years of my career in Morgan Stanley in the US. And I had some incredible managers who I learned a lot from. And just on your point around respect, respect should not be based on age, nor should it be firstly, everybody should be respected. But one thing I saw at Morgan Stanley as well was some of the head traders, for example, on a sales and trading floor might be late 20s, early 30s, managing large P&Ls. I saw in Morgan Stanley, I saw in the US that merit in terms of ability is incredibly important. And you need to be the best at what you do to get ahead. And when I came to Nykaa, I saw a similar culture in the sense that we're a very young company with a very young workforce. And some of the people in our company who are running some of the largest business units or functions like digital marketing or content or certain tech roles are all very, very young as well, because we're a young company catering to a young consumer. So you can't, so it attracts a certain type and quality of talent, which has been one of the major reasons for our success, is that we have young, hungry, agile, tech-savvy people at this company. So I don't think it's the age thing, and I think you cover all the startups, you cover a lot of consumer companies in India and around the world now. I think age should not be a barrier to people in terms of leadership. In terms of my leadership style, one thing I learned again in my previous career was that it's very important to be able to lead by example. And what I mean by that is, if I ask somebody to do something, I should be able to do that task myself. And this is something I remember at Morgan Stanley, we used to build financial models, an M&A model, for example, and your managing director would ask you to build this merger model, and you would do it. But I realized one day when my manager said that, hey, look, and he showed me that he was able to do it as well. So it gives you a lot of confidence when you know that you're being asked to do something that your manager can do. So even at Nykaa, I try to always do it in such a way whereby I have shown that I have done this, I can do it, and therefore it's doable. So I don't ask anything from my teams that
which you can't do,
which I cannot do, nor that is not doable. It's doable, and so that's how I think about leadership, which is lead by example, set the example, and then you're in a position to give responsibility to others. The second thing is, I have strengths and I have weaknesses. Where I have strengths, I try to lead from the front, which means I will go in front and I will take the decisions and I will play a very active role. But there are areas which are not my strengths, and there are others in this company who are much more talented in those areas. So there I will play a supporting role. I don't necessarily always need to be in the front. I'll play a supporting role, and I will go with their experience or go with their understanding of the problem and what the solution looks like, and play a very supportive role though. So always be involved, but you don't always have to be sitting at the front or, so knowing where your strengths lie, where you should play a leading role, where you should play a supporting role. But difficult conversations, difficult negotiations, difficult tasks, I prefer to own, in the sense that, it needs to be, you need to be accountable for the decisions that you take, and things that work well, it's the team's doing. Things that don't work well, I'll be the first one to take ownership for.
That's very nice of you to say. But talking about decisions, what's been your best investment decision, you would say? So, except Nykaa, that's out of the.
As I was telling you in the break, that I'm not an investor at all. I work in Nykaa morning, day, and night, and whatever salary I do collect goes, as I said, towards just putting in mutual funds. So I'm not even picking individual stocks. I'm not investing in startups. I think to do those things, you need to allocate time to those activities. And currently, I feel that my time is best spent on Nykaa, because it has actually the largest upside for us. Is the more time we invest in this company, the better it does. That's the best investment of our time.
Yeah, no, right now you're investing in Nykaa, you're looking at the profitable growth there, but Adwaita, with the latest, sad demise of Mr. Ratan Tata, and if I had to make a word cloud of what people were saying when we were talking to a whole host of, industrialists and people from all walks of life, the biggest of them all, the word was used was humility, a decent man, a man who did a lot for the mankind. And that's, kind of puts up the question, what do you make of ethical capitalism right now?
Yeah, I think it was incredibly inspiring to read, all the kind words people had to say about him, and I felt very inspired in that regard. I think that when I think about ethical capitalism, I do feel that management and leadership can be a very noble profession in and of itself, right? Because again, like Anchit said, in this organization itself, we employ 4,000 people, and then through our sort of off-role workers, whether it's in warehouses and so forth, the touch that we have on people is almost 10,000. And I think that itself, doing good by them, being able to provide meaningful employment as the baseline, but then also just through like fantastic management, motivating them, helping them grow in their career, helping them achieve their objectives, both personally and professionally, I think is just such a meaningful contribution that one can make in a very tactical, day-to-day way, without even having to start thinking about philanthropy and giving back and so forth, which obviously I think as a family and a company we have to get to and we will get to in a meaningful way. But just day in, day out, we have an opportunity every day to impact the lives of the people who work here. And I take that responsibility incredibly seriously. And I think it's a total privilege that we get to do that. That's what makes me get up every morning, not selling makeup and fashion, but really just that we have this ability to lead a very large team. And these people give us 10 hours of their work day, their whole day, 10 hours comes to us. And we can shape that in a very meaningful way.
Do you want to add something?
No, I think that covered it. What I will add is, it's if you're an ethical human being, that translates into business. So it's not about being ethical only in business. I think it's about the values that you hold close to your heart. As I said, as a family, we're very lucky where our parents instill values in us at a young age, and we're not unique in that sense. Most Indian families, given that we're a very tight-knit family type of society, there are a lot of incredible values that get passed down from our parents, our grandparents, and so it's about leading a life with integrity, leading a life, with authenticity, and I think that translates naturally into business if that's who you are. I think, and I would like to believe that's who I am. I know it's who Adwaita is. I know it is who Falguni is, and I know it's who most of the people at Nykaa are. So as a company, as Adwaita said, we, in our own small way, we try to give back to the society. We are not a massive corporation, but we do have an impact on certain people's lives, and we are delivering a service that I think is valuable to the consumer. So we have to continue to do right by them. And look, I think for as you mentioned, I think a lot of this will come with time and experience and exposure as well. So we don't want to over talk it now, but yes, I think we've all grown up in a generation who does place a lot of emphasis and value on ethics. And it's the only way we think business can be done.
Okay, that gives me a nice way to wrap up the conversation, but I'm going to throw in one more, which I forgot asking you guys earlier. At some point of time, would you guys be looking at a demerger of the two units?
I don't think that's something we can comment on right now. So if and
It's
when,
not
we'll
a no?
let you know. Nothing in life is a no, by the way. So
True.
Nothing in life is a no. I think it's something which if and when we consider it, we'll definitely let you know.
Okay, on that note, I'll let you guys go. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us.
Thank you,
very
Anisha.
much.
Thank you for a great session.